the growing form of entertainment, there are lots of environments that provide that entertainment. It used to be back in the 1920s that the only place you could watch a movie or a show would be a public theater. Now, nearly 100 years later, you can watch millions upon millions of hours of content on a device that can fit in your pocket. But even with the huge jump of people relying on entertainment in the mobile form, places like Old Town Theater are reviving the idea of homegrown entertainment and bringing it to its roots. We sat down with Myrick Edwards, the president of the Old Town Theater Group.
Back in the 90s, Huntsville Community Theater was performing, but they did not have a place to perform. They were performing like at the West Oaks Mall in the little community room. They were bumped around to different places. And so my mom and dad decided that Huntsville needed a performing arts place. And so they started looking at different venues and different things that might be possible. And somehow my dad found this building, or somebody brought him in. It was for sale, and at that time it was without a roof. Dad said, I don't have that kind of money. The guy came and put on a roof, and eventually my mom and dad started a nonprofit group, and then they started fundraising. They raised the money for it. So they started in about 1998 with the group, and it wasn't until about 2002 before it actually took off. Right. But they had a lot of the things in here are donated items, or had been, like the curtains that are on the stage came from Huntsville High School. They were getting a new set of curtains. We were able to get those curtains. The seats came, I'm assuming, from an old high school as well. They found them in a storage unit. And so a lot of this stuff is recycled materials that are here. It was once a movie theater back in the 1940s. And this is where people would come to watch movies. When it was originally built, the balcony the African American people could only sit upstairs. They weren't allowed to sit downstairs.
Old Town Theater was brought back to life in 1997 by Lauren's father, Gene Myrick, and became a highlight location for performances in town, no matter who wanted to put on a show.
That was my dad loved the performing arts, and he used to take us to plays and different things when we were kids, and he just wanted to make sure that Huntsville, this community, had a performing arts theater and that it was open to anybody. One of the first groups that came to him that wanted to use the theater was a Black woman, and she asked, Mr. Gene, will you allow us to rent the theater? Of course you can. And she did a hair show. And she filled this audience with Black women, and they did hair stuff, and my dad was the only white person in the theater. He talked about that, about how delightful it was and how important that was to him to have a place where people of all different backgrounds and all different colors could come. So that was very important to him.
Of course, with a theater with such an age, it has stories of its own it likes to tell.
That the theater is also haunted. We have a ghost that hangs out here. My dad named him Charlie. We don't have any idea if that's his real name or not. We just assumed that it might have been the man who used to live in the projection room. Back in the day, he was allowed to stay here. He had a bed and a little room and a cot, and that was part of his salary for running the projector. So now when you're down here by yourself, we hear people walking across. The last director of the play, he was turned out the lights in the theater, saw somebody walking across the stage, flipped the lights back on, and hey, he thought he'd turned the lights out on somebody, turned the lights back off, and it went across the stage the other way, so he left.
After hearing about the past of Old Town, we asked about the future.
I'm bringing in Michael Martin Murphey, nationally known performer, and that's where I really hope to see the theater go, where we can get in some more people. We just had a group come in from France that did a show. So just trying to get in more variety and reach out to a diverse crowd, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Not just try to cater to one particular group, but try to get a lot of diversity here.
We were curious about who runs Old Town Theater and how it stays afloat as a nonprofit organization.
We have a board of directors, are all volunteers that kind of help keep the theater up and going. But it is a nonprofit. We rely totally on donations that people give us throughout the year to keep things up and going. My mom, and again, you can imagine this is an old empty building with pigeon poop. My dad coordinated the contractors. He coordinated finding all the seats, the soundboard, the lighting, all of those things. He scrubbed the toilets. He was the head janitor. All of that is what he kind of did. So when I came back to town, I started doing a lot of those things that my dad did. My husband and I are the head janitors. We, are the ones that come clean. We run the concession stand. We try to keep. I was the one that helped, get the roof organized so that we could have a new roof and all those things that we needed to keep the theater going. We had a lot of damage from Harvey.
Old Town Theater has been through a lot in its history and is looking to become a highlight of the arts in Huntsville, Texas. As Huntsville slowly expands, Old Town is becoming the new Old Town.